Good day, students of Capiz State University Main Campus. I am Pulansky Pinky A. Barrientos, your facilitator for today. According to former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, natural hazards are part of our life, but hazards only become disasters when people's lives and livelihoods are swept away. Let us remind ourselves that we can and must reduce the impact of disasters by building sustainable communities that have a long-term capacity to live with risk. As an archipelago located at the southeastern part of Asia, the Philippines is exposed to both climatic and geological hazards. It is situated in the Pacific Ring of Fire, where two major tectonic plates, the Pacific Plate and the Eurasian Plate, meet. With several fault lines crossing the country, earthquakes could have a very devastating effects. There are 220 volcanoes, 20 of which are classified as inactive. The Philippines is also located along the typhoon belt on the North Pacific Basin in the Pacific, where 75% of the typhoons originate. There are 20 to 30 typhoons passing through the country, 5 to 7 of which can be destructive. As a consequence of extreme rainfall events, flash floods, flooding, and landslides have become more prevalent since 2000. The impact of climate change in the Philippines are becoming better understood. There has been an increase in the annual mean rainfall since the 1980s and in the number of rainy days since the 1990s. On average, 20 cyclones across Philippine area of responsibility, with about 8 to 9 making landfall each year. The natural risks associated with these trends are aggravated by human activities, particularly in the exploitation of resources such as forests and minerals, and development intervention that do not incorporate responsible risk assessments. This presentation is to preview the possible scenario of what will happen if a sudden large-scale earthquake disaster occurred in the province of Capiz. Disasters, were natural or human-made, affect everyone, especially the poor, children, women, and elderly who have the least capability to deal with disasters. Aside from natural hazards, we also experience human-induced incidents such as urban structural fires, drowning, collapsed structures, this pandemic outbreak, food poisoning, vehicular accidents, civil disturbance, and complex emergencies, particularly those internally displaced citizens as a result of armed conflicts, mostly in southern Philippines. In a 7.2 magnitude earthquake, the epicenter, the West Panay Fault. Earthquake can happen anytime in Western Visayas. The West Panay Fault is active and it is located at the boundary of Antique and Iloilo, Capiz, and the Aklan area. Region 6 has a history of very destructive earthquakes, so its residents cannot be complacent. A very strong, violent shaking in 60 seconds, and aftershock range to 4 to 5.6 magnitude. A widespread damages. More buildings and infrastructure were affected and collapsed. Fault line will jump as much as 5 meters. According to PHIVOLCS, a fault line is a break or fracture in the ground that occurs when the Earth tectonic plates move or shift. Electric power and water utilities will be affected. Telecommunications will be affected. Communication is very important to us. So it can be face-to-face interaction or phone conversation and many others. Once telecommunication are being affected by a disaster, we cannot communicate easily to our family as well as to our authorities in case of emergency. Roads and highways will be damaged. Bridges will be damaged. Many people are trapped or buried inside the collapsed buildings. Hundreds are presumed dead or injured. Wounded victims for minor to severe will occur. Traffic will come to a halt, no traffic enforcers, no signal lights, and no discipline at all. Abandoned cars litter with streets, causing people to walk. Possible simultaneous fire conflagration, buildings, houses on fire, and many burned alive trapped in buildings structure. "24 hours later, the authorities, the LGUs, the Red Cross, DRRM, and other agencies, this is the time for them to survey the extent of damages and help those people in need." So people, we will have a mass casualty. Many people will die. Panic buying or looting and acts of desperate behavior. People tend to rob a store in order to survive. Victims and survivors will sleep or stay in unopened areas. Patients will move out of hospital buildings for safety purposes. Restorations of basic utilities it takes time. For example, we have the power, electricity, and water facilities. Infrastructure repairs will take time. Many roads accessible only by two-wheel vehicle. There is food shortage. Relief goods, especially water, is limited. Many people suffers desperation and hopelessness. And of course, there is a mass graves. Many children will be orphaned and affected and become homeless. Think about it. Are you prepared? Are you ready for disaster? 72 hours ready? Will you stay or evacuate? What will you do? In time of disaster, where will I be? Where will my family be? In time of disaster, there is no specific time when, where, and how the disaster will occur or it may happen. Anytime, we must be ready in any disaster what will happen to us. Time of disaster, it is either in a 24 time, it's either in a day, light, or night time. So we have here the 12 hours out of home, 50% maybe out of home, and 50% at home. Some of the people, it might be at their house, or it's either in school, in road, in office, wherever we are. It might be in school, work, community, or in our family. We should be knowledgeable enough on what to do in time of crisis and disaster. Okay, we have here the facts and figures. For example, during the disaster or earthquake occur on the daytime, the estimated number of persons we have is 25,000, it is because some of people are outside for work, school, and at home. On night time, the number of population will decrease in number since some of the people will go home at their own places. So we have the 5 basic survival needs for disaster. Number 1, we have water. Of course, water is for drinking, cooking, and washing. Number 2, we have food, nutrition, and medicine. Number 3, we have shelter, temporary housing for those victims of the disaster. Next, we have energy, fuel, battery, LPG. Last, we have security. Security against disparate behavior of other people. Your survival. It might be you are in your family, at work, in school, or in the community. So where will you be? Are you ready? Is your family ready? Okay, we have here the basic preparedness. Do you have a go bag? What is go bag? Go bag composed of water, canned food, flashlight, multi-purpose knife, medicines, personal items, emergency numbers, whistle, matches, or lighter. Do you have a first aid kit? What should be in a first aid kit? Gloves, scissors, cotton, betadine, bandage, aspirin, alcohol, and others. Do you have a cell phone? A cell phone should have contact numbers of family, hospital, fire station, rescue team, radio station, police station, and other important agencies. Do you have emergency plan? What is it? A plan in case of emergency, or for example, you have a family plan. Next, you have an evacuation point. Know your evacuation area or place in case of emergency. So we have here the serious concern. Family reunification. This is the top priority for the protection of the family members. Survival provision. It is an actions providing support on those who have been affected by calamities. Safety and security. Set guidelines or protocols, among others, to ensure the safety and protection of the people. Staying alive is very important, and being faithful to God. If we entrust all to God, I believe we can survive whatever trials we may encounter in our lives. An example of without the rule of law possible happen just like in Tacloban. After 3 days of no communication, no food, no more shelter, so there is a possible example or occurrence of without the rule of law, or DRRM. So examples of without rule of law. There is misunderstanding among the people. People were no longer abide the rules and regulation in a certain place. There is misbehavior. There are some people tend to rob a store, grabbing anything in order to survive. People act and do whatever they want in a wrong way. In time like this, watch out for the zombies. Zombies aren't movie characters. Zombies refers to unprepared friends and neighbors who will kill you for your food, water, and shelter. In any emergency situation, if nobody will help you, it's Of plan, yo, yo. That stands for you're on your own. In short, in Bisaya, bahala ka na sa buhay mo. Emergency preparedness starts with you. Be prepared. Make a plan, build a kit, and stay informed. Thank you.